Hey guys, today I'm going to be showing you how I made this Evil Queen kind of summertime vacation inspired set of ears. These were made for Year of the Ear and the theme was Villains on Holiday. And I thought this was kind of a fun take on a Dole Whip meets the Evil Queen / Poison Apple. So let's get started. So for these particular ears, I wanted them to be a little lighter weight, and I'm going to be using foam poster board as the base instead of cardboard. So I am using that same template, the foam and batting template that I have linked down below for you guys. And I'm going to be tracing 4 of these onto that foam poster board and then cutting them out with an X-Acto knife. I did pick this up at Dollar Tree, and it's pretty inexpensive. For the back of the ears, I did want them to still show that they're clearly Evil Queen. So I had this vintage Disney movie poster fabric that does showcase the Evil Queen really nicely on the Snow White poster. So using the largest template, the ear cutting line template, I'm going to trace that onto 2 of these mini movie posters and making sure that I'm centering the Evil Queen on the template. I'm going to trace 2 of those and then cut those out as well. Next, I'm going to be cutting out 2 more of the largest template on a thin piece of white felt. This felt is also from Dollar Tree, and I'm only going to be cutting out 2 of these because you're only going to need this on the fabric side of the ears. So again, just tracing the ear cutting line template twice and then cutting those out. We're going to be assembling the fabric side of the ear first, so putting the foam poster board on top of the felt piece first and doing a line of hot glue at the top of the ear. I'm going to gently fold over the felt and tap that down into the hot glue. And then I'm going to work my way around the sides of the ear, saving the bottom portion for last. If this is your first time making ears, do smaller sections of hot glue because your hands will kind of get used to what they need to do and you won't be rushing and likely burning yourself if you've never done something like this before. Next, we're going to add the fabric portion. So this is like the movie poster with the Evil Queen. And same method, I'm going to be doing a thin line of hot glue at the top first and then working my way down the sides with the hot glue. Just folding over the fabric and tapping it down. To close up the bottom of the ear, I like to cut those 2 flaps in half because I find that it's much easier to glue them down. So I'm gluing down the felt in 2 separate sections, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the fabric portion, just adding a little bit more hot glue and folding over the fabric and tapping it down. The reason I like to cut it in half is because it limits the amount of puckering or weird folds that you might get. So for the actual Dole Whip portion of the ear, I'm going to be using this Dollar Tree coconut, and this is a cup that it is meant to have a straw that goes with it, but it doesn't come with a straw. But I'm going to only be using the top lid, and I'm going to do my best just to kind of eyeball cutting it in half. So I'm using a Sharpie to just mark it, and then I'm just going to carefully draw a line across the top of it just for a guide. And then in order to cut this in half, I'm going to be using a wood carving tool, which was $15 at Hobby Lobby. I've used it on so many of these ear tutorials whenever I need to cut plastic. And I'm going to be using the little X-Acto knife looking blade. I let it heat up to the hottest temperature, and then I'm just going to go in and carefully cut my way down the center of this little plastic coconut. And then we're going to be using each of these halves on an individual ear. So at this point, I have 2 halves of a coconut and 2 halves of ears, and I need to cut the bottom portion of the coconut after flipping it upside down so that it will adhere to the headband a little bit nicer. So I lined it up on the headband itself and made 2 little notches, and then I just kind of made a curved line in order to know where to cut on the bottom of this coconut. And then once again, using that hot knife, I'm going to very carefully follow along the line that I traced. Again, you're going to want to be really careful and be really aware of where your hands are when you're doing a project like this, because this is definitely not a tool that you want to slip with. I've never had any problems, knock on wood, but just go slow and steady and take your time. To help fill the coconut and not have to use a bunch of the fake Dole Whip stuff, I'm going to be cutting the styrofoam ball in half. I did try to use the pool noodle knife that I got from Dollar Tree. It did not work at all. So I went to my X-Acto blade and just carefully cut this ball in half. This ball is flat on the bottom, but it definitely didn't have to be in order to use it for this project. So you can pick up a large styrofoam ball at Dollar Tree and just kind of cut it in half. So next I'm going to be gluing on the coconut to one of those fabric ears. So with the fabric facing outward to be the back of the ear, you're going to glue on half a coconut to the ear, and making sure that that hole that you cut in the coconut is at the bottom, so that it'll rest on your headband nicely. This is super easy. I literally just did a line of hot glue, and then I'm just firmly pressing down the edge of the coconut into the hot glue. After that's all dry, we're going to glue this styrofoam ball in place just by simply gluing it onto the back portion of that fabric ear. So once you've added your glue, just firmly press down the styrofoam ball onto the hot glue. Once your hot glue is all dry, you can start making your fake whip or Dole Whip. I'm going to be using lightweight spackle for this, and I got this can at Walmart. I would definitely suggest looking at Walmart or Home Depot or something like that other than Dollar Tree, because you're going to get so much bang for your buck as opposed to a tiny little can for $1.25. So this is a brand new batch, and I originally just scooped it into the frosting bag that I have to do this. You can also use a plastic ziplock bag if you have something like that on hand, but the frosting bags are a teeny bit easier. Then I decided that I was going to mix the spackle with paint first in order to get it to be that red color, but I will tell you guys this is probably not the best way to do this, only because if you use too much paint, it is going to water down your spackle and make it a little bit harder to work with. So I do end up painting the Dole Whip once it's done anyway, so I'm not sure that I needed to do this mixture, but you can see I'm just adding in paint to a cup full of spackle here and just using a plastic spoon to mix it until I get a pretty close color, but it did come out more pink than red, which is why you're going to see me paint it later. So I went ahead and mixed it, but I do think that maybe this is a step that you can skip, and you guys can watch the tutorial all the way through to kind of make your own decision. It was still coming out really pink, so I added even more paint, but of a darker red shade. And I did get it to a color that I really, really liked, but you guys will see it's a little bit pink. Once I had it all mixed up, I'm just using this giant jumbo popsicle stick to put it into the piping bag that I have. You can pick up piping bags at Walmart or Target or anything like that. Joann's has them, Hobby Lobby has them. And I do think that they work a little bit better than a plastic bag, but if you don't want to have to spend the money, then a plastic bag will totally work. So you're just going to snip off the corner of the bag. We're not going to be using any special like cake frosting tips or anything. And then I'm just going to do a zigzag pattern, starting at the bottom and working my way toward the top, and then doing like a little dollop at the top so it has that little point. This was so easy and satisfying to do. And then my husband had the idea of adding a little apple as like a cherry, but an apple, which I thought was so cute. So I have these little wooden apples that I got from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be painting one of them red. Well, actually two of them. I'm going to be painting two of them red because one for each ear. And the way I like to paint these is what you're seeing here is literally just dipping it in the paint and then using my fingers just to smother it in paint. I find this to be the most efficient way to get paint everywhere as opposed to trying to use a paintbrush. It's just faster. Now, before you paint, you actually might want to make the indent on the Dole Whip first. I did have an extra, so it wasn't that big of a deal, but I took the apple and I just kind of pushed it down and swirled it around in that spackle to make a little opening for the apples once everything was dry, because I'm going to be hot gluing the painted apple in place instead of just like adding it while the spackle's wet, because I wasn't sure if that would hold. I am going to be using a paintbrush to add a little bit of dark brown to the stem of the apple, and I'm also going to use a paintbrush to get into the divot of the apple with the red paint, because I wasn't able to get my finger in there to paint it with my hands. To allow these to dry, I did put them kind of tilted as they were drying because I didn't want to risk the spackle dripping or moving into a position that I didn't want it to be in. So once I had pushed that little wooden apple to make a space for it, then I just tilted these and allowed them to dry for 24 hours. The spackle did take it literally 24 hours to dry, probably because it's just such a thick amount. So definitely make sure that you have fully allowed it to dry. After it was fully dry, you can see here I can tap on it and push on it and it's not indenting. Next, I'm going to glue in that little apple that we painted. I just used a little bit of hot glue on this, and this is where I kind of was thinking that the Dole Whip color might be a little bit too pinky. So I don't know, you guys let me know, do you prefer the pink or this red color that I did decide to paint it? So using that same dark red acrylic paint, I'm just using a paintbrush and going in and painting it. And this is what I meant when I said I don't know that you need to mix the color with your spackle. Like, I don't know that you need to sit there and mix the paint into the spackle if you're just going to paint it anyway. It seems like you could probably just wait and then paint it at the very end. Looking at it now, I kind of wish I'd left it that pink color just because it looks so yummy, even though it's fake. But you guys let me know, do you prefer that pinky color or the red color? So I went ahead and painted both of them I went ahead and painted both of them red, and then using some white puffy paint, I'm going to be making that poison apple look that, you know, we all know the poison apple to look like, with the like skull, eyes, and nose. And so I'm just kind of tracing out the nose and the eyes, and then I'm going to go in and just start adding the drips with the puffy paint. I did decide to do the puffy paint in 3 sections, so I did the front first, and then I went ahead and did each side separately once each layer had dried. The reason I did this is because I really didn't want the puffy paint to drip down the sides and kind of ruin the design. So after I had done most of it, then I just set it off to the side to dry, and then after a couple hours I went and finished the sides of the same one. Once everything was all dry, then I could move on to assembling the actual ears, and I'm going to be using my ear spacing template. I do have this linked down below for you guys, but this just helped me get a good spacing for this kind of odd shape of ear. I was too worried about gluing this directly onto the headband, so I did decide to use just a little strip of felt to give me a better place to attach the glue and the headband. So I am literally taking the strip of felt and just eyeballing it to the shape that I need, and then I glue this felt onto the opening before proceeding. So here you can see me adding the glue around the edge of the bottom of this ear, and then I'm just going to be adding this felt. Now, warning, please do not push down on your Dole Whip ear, because if you push really hard like I am right now, you are ruining the top of the Dole Whip, which I didn't realize. If you see here, I flattened it out. I was so mad at myself for not realizing that, so just be really careful when you are adding the felt to the bottom. You could also add the felt to the bottom before you do the Dole Whip portion, and that would definitely help. So to attach this, I'm just adding hot glue to the bottom portion of the ear where that felt is, and then I'm firmly pressing it down onto the headband, trying to get the spacing right using the spacing template, and I'm firmly going to hold that in place without squishing the Dole Whip until that glue is fully set and dry, and then I will attach the other ear. And that is the final step in making these poison apple Dole Whip inspired Mickey ears. I think these are so fun, and they would be really, really cute to wear in the summertime, especially on maybe like a Disney cruise or something like that. So you can see here we've got Snow White and the Evil Queen on the back, and then the front is that lovely poison apple Dole Whip. You guys are gonna have to let me know what you think of these ears, and is this something you're gonna try? I love making fake desserts for crafts, so you're definitely going to see more similar designs to this in the future on my channel. Be sure to subscribe and like the video, and leave me an apple down below if you guys did make it all the way through to the end. Bye guys.